Hey guys, welcome to a brand new FM18 Experiment. I'm Joe. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe for daily FM18 content. In this episode, we are going to be looking at what if Billionaires invested in Sky Bet League 2. Now, you may have seen similar experiments from TomFM. He's been doing the what if a billionaire invested in Wales, Brazil, Ireland, and I think he's done something else. But it's been amazing on his channel, and he's done a fantastic job at what he's done. And his channel link is down in the description. I've talked with him about doing one of these myself, and he's totally fine with that. So I thought I'd do a specific league, and in this episode we're going to do League 2. It's going to be a few parts. We're going to probably go about 20 years into the future at the end of all this and see how football has changed, because 24 sets of billionaires have come along and invested 1 billion in each League 2 side. It's going to be very, very interesting. I've went into the editor, and if you want to download the save files from the points that I do in this video, they'll be down in the description as well, and let me know what you do with them basically, and if you see anything different if you're carrying out the experiment. So without further ado, let's get into the game and see what on earth is going on. So I just want to say, regarding this experiment, I have changed everybody's reputation to 10,000 in League 2, and we've also given them a front end sugar daddy, so that you can actually give them the £1 billion. Now, it's worked for most of the teams, but some of them, like Accrington, it says finance is okay, but you can see the worldwide reputation. I think they all have the same transfer budget, but some of the finances have glitched a little bit. But you can see for most teams, they are rich. It'll be interesting to see if the likes of Accrington and who was that, Exeter, get relegated in this first season, although there's Grimsby Town as well. So there is definitely a few that it hasn't necessarily worked for, but we shall see in this season who signs who, and I'm going to simulate now to the end of the August transfer window, and we can see which sides are spending money, how much money are they spending. Are they going to be spending hundreds of millions, or are they're going to be sensible and maybe invest some of that money into the infrastructure of the club as well, because that's going to be interesting. But we'll go forward to the 1st of September, I guess. I was going to say 31st of August. But we'll go to the 1st of September and we'll see who the big signings are. So after the first 4 games of the season, it looks like Mansfield are taking an early lead. They're on 12 points after 4 games. But Lincoln, one of the teams where it didn't necessarily work for them, they are down in the bottom. Grimsby, Accrington as well, Port Vale. Yeah, they've got okay finances. It looks like all the okay ones seem to be towards the bottom, although Cheltenham there do have rich. So what we want to look at is the transfers, and wow, already I'm seeing massive numbers of money. 46.5 million is the first transfer, and very interestingly, it's Adelaide, Jeff Rain Adelaide, and he's gone to Carlisle from Arsenal for 46.5 million. So it's interesting that they're spending large amounts of money on what seem to be fringe players of Premier League sides. They haven't gone out and bought massive European players, and maybe that's because of where they are. Henri Lansbury, what a signing that is, for 4.8 million as well. It's not that much, but he's one of the better players in the list, I would say. Freddie Woodman from Newcastle to Barnet. Declan Rice from West Ham to Crewe. Colchester seem to have been spending a lot more money than some teams. Cheltenham have spent some money there as well. So that'll be interesting if we have a look at how many players they've signed. Barnet have signed a load of players. Some on a free transfer. Is there any names we recognise? Oh, well, they signed Henri Lansbury. Cambridge didn't spend that much money, but Cheltenham have spent quite a bit. Not a lot in one go, but they have signed a load of players. Matthew Flamini's there, Wilson Palacios, some great players. Matty Taylor there. So they've went for the experienced players. maybe former Premier League players as well. Alessandro Diamanti has gone to Carlisle. That's a cracking signing. We'll see how he's done at the end of the season. Colchester, as I said, have signed a lot of players there. Ashley Richards, Sebastian Bassong, Yusuf Malumbu, what a signing that is. And a lot of good players there. Coventry have brought in a load of free transfers. Leon Best, I'm sure he used to play for Coventry in the past, actually. There we go, so a bit of a return for him. I didn't know he was still playing, to be perfectly honest with you. Matty Fryatt, Julian Lescott in there. So, Jan Kirkov, I think that's a really good signing, actually. And I didn't know he was available on a free transfer at the start of the game. I think he's a good player. Newport County signed a few players, a lot of them on frees. So it looks like they've gone for the approach of getting in experienced players, as I said before. Nigel Reo-Coker is there. Morgan Fox is there as well, who's in my journeyman save at the moment with Ipswich Town. So if you haven't seen that, that's out every single day at 4 PM. We're about 70 episodes in now, 6 seasons, so go and check that out. It's been a load of fun so far to record. But that's the end of the first transfer window. You know, I think a lot can be left to be desired by that, but I think now we'll go towards the end of the season and see who's got promoted, and then we'll have an in-depth look at their transfers, so I'll see you then. So we have reached the end of Season 1 in this experiment, and as you can see, Exeter's job is open, so I assume they got relegated, but let's go in and confirm it. So Barnet have won in the playoff final there, but it's Coventry City that have won the League One title. Cheltenham have come second with Colchester in third. I remember there are 3 teams that signed a lot of players. Swindon also signed a few players. Barnet were quite active as well, but you can see those are the 4 that have went up, and the teams that had the okay finances, maybe the one that it didn't work for, the likes of Lincoln, Port Vale, Newport, Notts County, Accrington, all in the bottom half there. Sorry, Tom FM, I know you're a Lincoln supporter. I promise I didn't sabotage it just for you, if you're watching. But shall we have a look at Coventry City's transfers in depth? Did they sign anybody in January? They did. They signed Jeff Cameron and this guy, Barkhusen. Not for very much, to be honest. So they look like they've spent the money wisely. 17.75 million is a pretty decent outlay for the players that they've got, the likes of Julian Lescott. How did he do at League 2 level? You're assuming that he did well. Yeah, 7.16. It'll be interesting to see them take the step up, though, because these older players are probably not as good anymore. Leon Best only played in 10 games, but he did score 5 in then 10 games. Jan Kirkov, I think he's going to be a key player. Maybe not. 6.95 average rating. So I wonder who did play well for them then. Who was the top scorer? Duckens Nazon. Is he there in real life? Really don't know. Joe Lolly. I think he might be there in real life. I think he possibly is. I'm not sure. Was he on the transfers? Joe Lolly was in there. Bevan. Yes, he's been in Coventry a couple of years, and he's doing well. So it's interesting that some of the players that weren't signed are doing very well for them. Joe Ralls is an example of somebody that signed and has done very well. 20 assists there. Top average rating is Drac Grimmer. Did he sign in the summer? I mean, he signed on a free, so I can't really tell. So it looks like Grimmer is actually a Coventry player. So that's quite interesting. It'll be good to see whether that continues. Let's have a look at Cheltenham. Did they make any January signings? They did. They made quite a few on deadline day. Marcus Edwards for 32 million from Tottenham Hotspur. He's already worth 25.5. He's doing fantastically. What sort of wages are they paying? Only 24k. So they're spending a lot of physical cash, but not really splashing the wages just yet. Brad Smith from Bournemouth, David Davis from the Theresa May's cabinet, Jordan Huggle for 10 million from Preston. There you go. Fuchs and Worrell as well. I mean, Worrell for 14 million from Nottingham Forest. That seems like a bit of a silly signing, and he hasn't scored. Oh, he's a defender. That's why I thought he was a striker. But Cheltenham, a decent side put together. They've certainly spent a lot more money than Coventry. Let's have a look at Colchester. They signed a lot of players in January as well. Danny Ward in there, Charlie Adam in there. And have they spent a large amount of money? Not really. They've spent 105 million overall. This guy signed this guy, Alexander Zinchenko from Man City, and you know, he's had a decent season, but 48 million pounds worth? Possibly not. What about Barnet then? Did they sign any players towards the end of the season? They signed Velios. That's a decent signing in there. Fabio from Middlesbrough. Is that Fabio da Silva? It could well be, you know. It certainly is. That's brilliant. So they signed Fabio, Van der Horn, Barbe, Velios, Ben Davies. Not the same one. I thought that was the one from Tottenham, but it wasn't. So Barnet looked good as well. Now let's have a look at Lincoln and see what their transfer history was. They only signed 63k's worth of players, so that's the difference, isn't it? You know, Port Vale. Let's have a look at their outlay. 6.75 million. They signed quite a few players. Marvin Sordell from Burton Albion. So, you know, they obviously had the money in there. It's just some teams have decided to spend it a little bit better. Now, these finished in 4th, so you'd expect them to have better signings. Adam Clayton, Alex Smithies, Jordan Rossiter, Joe Gomez from Liverpool. That's a fantastic signing. 45 million, though. Whew. 80 million. Whoa. Now we're getting into serious money. Reece Nelson for 80 million, going up to 110 million from Arsenal. So League Two sides are starting to spend a lot more money. Let's just check if that was the biggest sign. It was, but we've also got a 77 million transfer there. That is absolutely crazy. But the teams that we need to keep an eye on in this league, obviously Coventry, Cheltenham, Colchester and Barnet. As we go forward into the next season, it'll be interesting as well, the teams dropping down to League 2, so there's 4 of them obviously. So you've got Bristol Rovers, Bradford, Doncaster and AFC Wimbledon. Will they be able to cope with the huge amount of spending from the current League 2 sides and the likes of Swindon, who've spent £80 million? Will the people from League 1 just not be able to cope? Will they go down to the conference next season? We shall find out. Let's see what happens. Well, guys, we are at the end of the second season, and you can see already Cheltenham have won promotion to the Sky Bet Championship, so they finished 3rd in League 1. They must have won the playoffs. But Coventry, the title holders of League 2, they couldn't make it, but Barnet and Colchester did make it up. And interesting that the 4 teams that were promoted were the 4 teams that finished 1 to 4. Shall we go down to League 2 and see what's happened there before we have a look at what Coventry and that have done? AFC Wimbledon, they're gone. Morecambe, interestingly, in administration, so they actually would have had the money at the start. And they've went into administration. Did they sign a load of players? Well, they spent 38 million the previous season, and they've went into administration, and they have survived relegation, to be fair. 12 points deducted from them. Fair play, you know. They obviously did well. But Swindon were the team that won. Obviously, they had Reece Nelson. I can see Yusuf Poulsen has been signed. But let's have a look at the transfers for this year. Oh, my word. So, Joe Gomez has left Swindon. He's now gone to Colchester for £69 million. Maffeo has come from Man City to Forest Green. Dean Henderson. I don't even know who some of these players are. Oliver Burke has gone to Swindon for £41 million. Reece Oxford has gone to Crewe, £37.5 million. Smithies has gone from Swindon to Colchester. John Joe Kenny, another guy that you'll see in my Journeyman series, he's gone from Everton to Grimsby. A lot of big money spent here. It'll be interesting to maybe have a look at the free transfers. I don't know who will have gone where, but we'll have a look at Swindon's outlay. That was last season, so here we go. So they signed Rispolsi, or Rispoli, Riley in there, Burke, James Chester, Jan Anik. So they didn't actually sign too many players, but hopefully they held on most of their ones. Cambridge, they've had a good season. They've finished second. Who've they signed? Todd Kane, I recognise him. Michael Hector, Ashley Hunter from Fleetwood, Ben Osborne, and Gilead was their free transfer. So no real big names standing out so far until we get to Forest Green, and they signed, they signed a lot of players. This is crazy. They signed McGowan from Huddersfield, Yusuf Paulson for 5.25 million. Surely he ripped up League Two. He certainly did. That's a fantastic signing. That is really, really good. Brereton, Bidwell, Nikita Yelovich, Stephen Davies there as well, Balati, George Evans, etc. And Crew, who managed to finish 7th but went through in the playoff. Mohamed Sissoko, is that Momo Sissoko? It certainly is, from Liverpool. That's a brilliant signing, but he's since gone to Panathinaikos in the January transfer window. Charlie Austin has come in and not scored that many goals actually. And Reece Oxford, obviously we mentioned him before, but some big signings there for Crewe Alexandra. But interesting that they came through the playoffs. Why didn't the likes of Wickham come through? Let's have a look at their transfers. Bettinelli, there not too many great players signed there. What about Luton Town? We'll have a look at them. I'm just sort of skim reading them now to see if there's any massive transfers. And we'll have a quick look at Chesterfield, and then we'll move on to the League One teams. So Ryan Mason, that's a good signing for them. But apart from that, not too much spent. If any of you guys spot anything, by the way, let me know down in the comments. Obviously, there's a lot to have a look at, so it would be appreciated. Let's have a look at Colchester. Now, they signed a couple of players from Swindon, so they signed Gomez and Smithies, Andy Vyman from Derby County, Lamina Kone from Sunderland. So some good players, but nothing particularly special for that 159 million that they've spent. But they've won the league. Fair play to them. Now, Barnet, they didn't really sign anybody. They just kept with their players from last year. What about Cheltenham? What was that? Under transfer embargo due to breach of financial regulations. Now, that is something that's going to affect most of the teams, you would imagine, going into Season 3. So it'll be interesting to see if these can keep their momentum going. Tammy Abraham from Chelsea, though, that's a great signing. Jamal Lascelles, Matt Doherty, Harrison Reed, and Amarte from Leicester. But not too many signings. They have got a transfer embargo, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how they do going into next season. Coventry City, who did they sign? Not many at all. They only spent 6.5 million. So that's interesting. Tammy Abraham finishing top scorer. And now it'll be interesting to see whether these teams can get up to the Premier League at the first time of asking, or whether they'll come straight back down due to those transfer embargoes. We'll certainly find out at the end of Season 3, which will be the last season we look at in this episode. So join me for that. So here we go then, the final season of this first part of the episode. But as I said in the introduction, we're going to go well into the future, I think, in this, maybe about 20 years, and see how many of those League Two sides manage to pull themselves up to the Premier League. That has got to be the question. Let's have a look at the Championship then. It looks like Colchester got to the playoff final, so that's a good sign. And Cheltenham and Barnet did in fact get promoted. Colchester finished in the playoffs, got all the way to the final. We nearly had 3 League Two sides making it all the way to the Premier League within 3 seasons. So it'll be interesting to see if Colchester now drop down the leagues. But we'll have a quick look at Cheltenham. We'll do it the opposite way around this time. They have signed a load of players this time. Daley Blind from Forest Green. I didn't know he'd signed for them, but they have signed him. Now for Cheltenham, and hopefully he's doing all right for them. Alberto Moreno, another good signing there. Matteo Darmian, Javier Pastore. Now we're starting to get into big signings. £150,000 a week. And Yanga Mbiwa there as well. So they are starting to sign huge players for the sides. And it's no surprise to see Cheltenham Town winning the championship on 106 points. Barnet, is it Town or is it just Barnet? Haven't got a clue, but Barnet, let's see who they've signed. They've signed Adam Smith, Joel Robles, Tom Davies. That's a good signing. Jordan Rhodes in a part exchange for Velios, who they actually got money for Velios and got Rhodes in return. I know who I'd be happy with. Did he play much though? Oh, he's now at Blackburn. He's now at Blackburn on loan. He hasn't actually played much in this save, which is a bit of a shame. I think he is a good player. Who else is in there? Gnabry. Antonio Conte has come out of retirement and played there. What about Colchester then? Who did they sign? They've signed Van Ginkel, Loftus-Cheek. Lots of good players there. And some crazy amounts probably spent. We will have a quick look at the transfers and see who the biggest signing was. 34 million, Tom Davies, Ducour. That's not us. And Diddy. Oh, Forest Green's in. Hold on. How are Forest Green in the champion? Oh, maybe. It's because Leicester are in the championship and Forest Green have signed them. So that's a bit of a spoiler of stuff to come. Down in League One then. Cambridge got to the final. They beat Swindon. So that's two teams that were in League Two last year. Forest Green and Crewe have gone up. Who was the other team? It was Coventry, wasn't it? Coventry finished 5th. So the top 5 are former League Two sides. What about Crewe? Well, who did they sign this season? They've spent a lot of money. Tom Cleverley is probably the most recognisable. Clarsey there as well. I think it'll probably be easier just to have a look at the transfers this season. Nelson, Pickford, some great signings in there. Alvarez, Holgate as well. Blind, obviously went to Cheltenham. Lewis Holtby, that's a cool little signing. Adam Clayton left. Charlie Austin left. So pretty cool. And I can't see any issues for any of the teams at the moment. If we go down into League Two, have the likes of Blackburn maybe got relegated. They've come down, and Blackpool and Doncaster, they weren't League Two sides at the time. They've both gone down. Lincoln have come back up straight away, so that's really cool to see. Newport County are the winners this season though. Luton Town, Chesterfield and Carlisle. Let's have a look at their transfers this season. So the biggest signing was actually 23 million. And Adelaide went from Carlisle back to West Ham. So the signings are just toning down a little bit in League Two at the moment. Maybe more sides have had financial issues. Craig Cathcart, one of the biggest signings there. So League Two, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on these teams as we go on. How are these teams doing in the likes of the FA Cup? So if we have a look at these, for example, they went out in the FA Cup 4th round. Have we had shock winners of them yet? I don't think so. Yeah, Coventry got to the 6th round, but that's not completely out of the question. What about the Carabao Cup? Nah. So we haven't had any shock wins of the Cup yet, but we've certainly had a lot of interesting stuff go on in this first episode, and I think it's really cool that we're going to have 2 League Two sides in the Premier League, Cheltenham and Barnet, and the financial power that they have. Are they going to be able to go straight into the Premier League and already be competing with the top 6, or will they find their sort of level and drop back down the leagues? That is going to be something for the next episode, so hopefully you've enjoyed that. If you have, make sure you do leave a like down below. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to see in these videos. Obviously, it's the first time I've done something like this, so it would be nice to have a little bit of feedback. Make sure you subscribe if you are new, because there's going to be plenty more FM Experiment. I also do FM into the far future videos as well. We've already done up to 500 years from 50, so they're all on the channel as well, so go and check them out. Obviously daily content with the Journeyman, and hopefully you can join me for my other FM content coming out in the next few months. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like, and make sure you leave some feedback down in the comments. Subscribe if you're new, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.